Welcome back to the show. Our next guest believes that the Bronx holds the key to solving New York City's affordable housing crisis. He's positive the area's ambitious affordable housing targets can be met if city officials agree to renew the 421A tax abatement and HPD funding continues to be fluid. Sharing what he means is the director of B6 Real Estate Advisors, Mitchel Flaherty. And Mitchel, good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me, Darren.
Yeah, I mean, let's get at it. I mean, when we talk about affordable housing, it really is something that the Bronx and New York City continues to talk about consistently, the lack of affordable housing. But from your perspective, there's a pathway to really doing something about this.
Yeah, so, there was large, ambitious targets set by Mayor de Blasio for affordable housing. And one of the ways he's done that initiative is to create rezonings. One of these rezonings was happened along Jerome Avenue. Jerome Avenue was rezoned back in March 2018. And then targets are not quite being met so far for a number of reasons, which I'm sure we'll go into. But one of the main reasons is we have the expiration of the 421A that's expiring next year. And in order for developers to construct affordable housing, they need this tax incentive because construction costs are high, land costs are high. So they need a tax break in order to build the affordable housing. And what we saw in 2015, when that abatement expired, there was just a lack of new construction and basic supply and demand. If there's not as many units being built, the units will become less affordable.
And when we talk about this here, we talk about the targets not being met. You mentioned that. I was going to get to that right now. Unfortunately, those targets aren't being met. Why are we not reaching the goal? And what would you attribute to some of those reasons why?
It's very challenging for affordable housing developers to get funding from the city via HPD. It's a very long process. It takes 2 to 3 years. I was actually on a phone to a developer this morning, and there's a backlog due to COVID, and they're projecting a 6 to 7 year wait time in order to get the construction to build. So it's a very long process. So HPD, in order to create more affordable housing, needs to keep that process fluid so that more units can be built.
Yeah. And I know the commercial real estate landscape is up your alley as well. How do you view it from your perspective?
Bronx market has been strong for about 5 years or so now. And each asset class acts differently. The industrial market has been very strong through the whole New York City and nationwide. But a lot of the reason why the industrial market is strong is because a lot of the areas we've rezoned in the Bronx to residential. So again, it goes back to supply and demand, where there's a lack of supply on the industrial front and prices tend to go up. So industrial is doing very robust market. This year to date, the volume of industrial properties has been over 30%, which typically is below 10% in proportion to the market. In addition to that, retail has also been very strong, despite what you see, a retail disaster in New York. Manhattan's struggled on the retail front because a lot of the people left during COVID. However, a lot of the locals in the Bronx stay within their local and they shop at their local stores. So that's what's kept that market strong, and investors looking for retail opportunities all the time.
Yeah, well, we thought throughout the COVID-19 pandemic that the Bronx would see, and I've talked to some owners, and they've said it's been a challenge. But from your perspective, when you talk about Bronx real estate in the commercial area, things have pretty much been stabilized.
Yeah, I think that's correct. The Bronx is seen as a robust market. It's been a bit, it's a steady market, and you're seeing a lot of institutional capital coming to the area with the new developments in Mott Haven, which is exciting for the area, and a lot of investors from other boroughs like Brooklyn, Queens also shifting their attention to that market because prices are lower in comparison.
Yeah. Mitchel, I want you to share a little bit more with us, our viewers in particular, because I know one of the things that you're saying that if we're ever going to turn the corner, one of the things that has to happen is renewing that 421A tax abatement. Somebody may not necessarily know what that means, so educate our viewers on what that means and why you think that's important.
Yeah, so the 421A tax abatement is otherwise known as Affordable New York. So it's a tax abatement that the developer gets for 35 years if a certain number of units are affordable. That number of units is 25 to 30%, and the affordability is based on the AMI band. AMI is an acronym for area median income. So that's going to determine the affordability of the unit. You know, I understand that there's debates in terms of what's affordable and what's not, but as defined by HPD, affordable is 30% or below of your grossly income. So it's important for the 428 to be renewed. It expires of June next year, as I've mentioned, so that more units can be built, because without it, developers won't construct more affordable housing, and the pricing will actually increase.
Yeah. So what do we see happening in the future as we take forecasts into the fall and possibly even into the winter? What can you forecast for the future for us?
I think as long as the come back to work theme continues, obviously there's been some hiccups with the Delta variant. As long as that continues, the commercial market is strong. I think the Bronx will continue to see more development happening. And once the area matures, particularly Mott Haven, Brookfield's projects, phase 1 is completing the end of this year. As you start to see, you know, residents move into these units, I think, you know, there'll be demand. Retail will still be strong, and I think you'll see, you know, thriving neighborhoods.
Yeah, but even though we have this economic challenge and this economic downturn due to COVID-19, how do we view affordable housing from the perspective of getting better? Do we see it getting better short term, or are we in for a long haul with this?
Well, you know, affordable housing is a long, drawn-out process. I don't think there's any quick, easy fix. There's no, immediate fix. So as long as the HPD funding is continued to affordable houses so they build, then we'll continue to try and strive them ambitious targets that Mayor de Blasio set. You know, Louise Carroll, who's the HPD commissioner, I think her budget for this year is 1.2 billion, sorry, which is consistent with the last few years. So New York City is continuing to demonstrate their commitment to affordable housing. So as long as that theme continues, then I think, you know, there's more housing to be provided and to keep it affordable.
Yeah. Can you give us a little bit of an idea? I don't need any heavy statistics, but give me an idea, if you will, of how the Bronx compares to other boroughs across the city.
So, you know, there's been one of the rezonings, as I mentioned, for affordable housing was the Jerome Avenue rezoning. There has been other rezonings as well, such as Inwood. There's one in East New York. We're talking about one in Bushwick and Gowanus. So, yeah, the Bronx I see the Bronx as a potential solution to the New York City housing crisis. One, because there's plenty of land available, and two, there's transport infrastructure in place to provide quality housing where people want to live. So, you know, I think Bronx is doing its part, and it will continue to do so as long as I mentioned, the funding's available and the 420A is renewed.
Yeah. Michael, thank you for your insight on this. Certainly we'll continue to follow this story, and love to have you back to talk a little bit more about this as we get a little closer into 2022.
Thanks for having me, Dan. I really appreciate it, and I hope to meet you in person soon.
Yes, sir. Hopefully in person soon. That's the goal for a lot of us. All righty. Well, listen, if you want more information, we encourage you to visit the website at b6realestateadvisors.com. Again, that is b6realestateadvisors.com. We encourage you, please don't go anywhere. We're taking a quick break, but Open does return coming up after this.